9:18 on the morning show with Jeff and Will. We are back on this fine Monday morning. That's what today is. It's been such a crazy week. I have no clue what's going on anymore. I don't know what day it is, but I know what today is because that's the day we talked to Tina Traster, the editor-in-chief of the Rockland County Business Journal. Good morning, Tina. How are you this morning?
Good morning. Good morning. I guess you're in a fog.
A bit of one, but you can clear us out of it as always, Tina. You've always got the latest and greatest in the Rockland County business world.
All right, let me blow the dust off you today. So, a couple of big stories were put out last week, and really relevant stories. Let's turn our attention to the village of West Haverstraw. Long-running application there to put a massive 454,000 square foot, that is massive warehouse on top of a former construction and demolition landfill that is off-gassing that has been never got cleaned up or capped, even though it was decommissioned, I think, in the 90s, early 90s. There's a developer who wants to cap the site and put this massive warehouse on top of it with 76 bay warehouse. And their position is, it's a better solution than to leave the site fallow and to have it continue to off-gas methane and to basically be an environmental hazard, which is what it is. Now, they came back. This applicant has been before the board for a couple of years, and the main hurdle that they have to get over right now is they have to convince the DEC that there are viable ways to safely cover the landfill. And the DEC recently returned a letter to them, presenting a lot of challenges, a lot of hurdles, but for 2 hours, an environmental expert from Boswell Engineering of Hackensack, New Jersey, sort of countered every sort of challenge and assured the zoning and planning boards, which meet together in the village of Haverstraw, that it's not a problem. I don't know if that's true or not. It seems like there's a bit of a road to travel there. But in the end of the day, it kind of does come down to the question of, is it better to leave this open pit, essentially, continuing to just off-gas methane, or is it better to figure out something to do with it? Now, what's being proposed, that raises another set of issues and questions. Why? Because if anybody can picture the site, let me try to paint the picture, in case you can't picture the site. This is a 34-acre site. Right now, it's all grown over and essentially grassy. It sits along Beach Road, and the side street is Ecology Lane. Now, why is Ecology Lane ringing a bell? Because that's where Rockland Green and Howard Phillips is hoping to build, to convert an empty warehouse into an animal shelter. So essentially, the animal shelter is sandwiched between this construction demolition landfill on the one side and the existing decommissioned landfill on the other side. Beach Road, as we know, is flood prone and is, the Minnesiongo Creek runs into the Hudson River. So you've got this sort of complex quilt of potential activity going on really what is just, like a very complicated swath of land, particularly where there are all kinds of environmental, and climate-related issues that really will need to be that need to be considered with all of these potential projects. Now, the zoning board and planning board, of course, initially raised the concern about having the kind of truck traffic coming down into the village, tying up traffic across the train tracks, coming into Ecology Lane, which is, like I said before, just a tiny, tiny road. And then Ecology Lane, again, which would be the front of the a potential future animal shelter, is also the site of the ingress and the egress, meaning the trucks would be coming in and out onto this narrow Ecology Lane. The warehouse itself, as we see every time we are at these planning boards, and the members ask who's the end user, it's always the same thing. There's no potential end user. We're just developing the warehouse. So the only thing that Boswell was able to tell the board and the zoning board, planning board members is it's not Amazon, but we don't know who it is. They never seem to reveal who the tenant is. I don't know if this is the way they really do business, i.e. they do these projects on spec, and there really is no tenant, or whether they don't reveal that. This, they said, is not a this is a $60 to $80 million project because of the environmental cleanup and what would be continuous monitoring of the site. So, a lot of warehouse developers come into the county and they propose their projects, but this is much more complex because of the environmental considerations that are going on here. They did at this planning and zoning board meeting, they did a presentation, sort of like a simulation. And one of the things that they tried to convince the village officials about is that, well, at least there's a sound barrier. Yes, there is a sound barrier on 3 sides, but not on Ecology Lane. And again, that is the very skinny, narrow road that runs between any potential animal shelter and this 454,000 square foot warehouse. Oddly, I know that in the animal shelter proposal, there's no money built in for soundproofing, which they may want to go back and revisit that as this project unfolds. This project is still no doubt years away, and we don't know that they'll ever get their approvals. But that's another issue: is if and when they do, while they're unearthing all of the construction debris, or at least tapping it. I don't know what kind of toxins. I don't know what kind of situation a cleanup like that is going to present in such close proximity to animals living in shelter, allegedly dogs, I guess, that will need to be walking outside, and the people who will be working there. So the two projects, I think, are very related, and probably really need to be looked at together, at least from the village's point of view. Go ahead.
We do actually have a caller with a question for you, if you don't mind, Tina. We've got Greg on the line who wants to speak with you.
Greg the Egg.
Greg, you're on with Tina Trasher.
Hi, Tina. I don't know how much information you got, or if there's a place for interested parties to get it. But I'm actually in construction, and I'm building 2 warehouses right now. And one of the biggest aspects of building a warehouse is making sure that the weight of all the materials inside can sit on the foundation without having issues. The way you do that is you put a lot of material there, and then you pack it. You make sure that the earth is stable. Right now, that site, and I worked in and out of the Haverstraw Marina since I was 15, so I know that area. That's a loose, packed area. That is settling garbage and other things. Once you put all that weight and that compression on there, whatever's active chemically is going to want to go out. Do they have a plan for collecting overspill and the off gases when they go to build this site? Because I think that's going to make the situation far worse, and possibly directly into the Hudson River, because that's an estuary right behind it, if they don't handle it properly. I don't see how this could be done without remediating and then building.
Oh, I agree. I absolutely agree. I mean, this is a very complex site, where it has to be contained, and it's sensitive in terms of its proximity to the creek, to the river. No, this is a very complex situation. The other side of the fence is for it to just sit there and fester for decades is also problematic. So what's your feeling about, the best solution here?
Well, the solution itself is you need to maybe do both, but the first aspect is to address the contamination and whatever's going on inside. I've worked at garbage dumps where you're digging new pits. It's incredibly complex the way that you need to go in and do that. And as far as I know, underneath that older style landfill is not the newer technology necessary to collect and remediate any of the possible impacts. So my main question is there a place to get some of the information? You said there was somebody who came in and dispelled all the worries. Is there a way to get that information, that report, and disseminate it?
Yes, so that's a good point. So the DEC, site has some of this, and whatever it is that Boswell Engineering on behalf of Eric Bergstall, who's the developer, or the landowner. I mean, all that information is with the Village of Haverstraw and with the state. So yeah, it very much needs to be looked at so that the community doesn't remain in the dark. I'm sorry, Village of West Haverstraw. Yeah, so that the community is not in the dark, and that the consequences of this aren't known decades later. I mean, even in the meeting, there was some admission that through core sampling that there are PCBs on site, and we know that there's off-gassing of methane. So it's not a secret that this is a problem, and the question is what to do with it, and also what to do around it to contain the problems to any other potential adjacent casualties by default. So it's the residential I think it's on the western side. This potential animal shelter. I mean, there's so many factors going on at one time that this really needs, I'd say, great supervision, to say the least.
Right. I completely agree. So if I were to contact the town, they would be able to start telling me who the developer is, and I could start a FOIL in order to get that information, is what you're saying. You
know what? Can you do me a favor? Can we talk offline after this phone conversation?
Sure. I think they have my number. If not, they can. I'll get your contact information. We can talk.
Okay. Let me give you my email address, and if you could just shoot me an email after this conversation, I'd like to talk to you offline. It's.
I'd be happy to do that. I'll contact Jeff, and I think he can put us together if that's all right.
Thank you so much.
Fantastic.
Thank you,
Greg.
everybody. All right. Bye-bye.
You're really piquing the listeners' interests this morning, Tina.
Well, you know what? This story, it's an interesting thing. We've been reporting on this for a couple of years, and it wasn't sticking. But when we put this story out, and of course, put it on social media, I noticed suddenly we'd woken up the community, and people were like, "What? A giant landfill? What? Right next to the animal shelter? What? Next to the creek?" I think that somehow, I don't know, the timing was just right, and people finally woke up and said, "Whoa, this is a really complex, massive proposal that has a lot of, different issues that it's associated with." And I think you're right. I think this has finally woken up the community, piqued their interest, as you say, because it should. This is it's a big story. So we're on, that's good. But that's why we do what we do, because we want the community involved in consequential decision making that goes on at the municipal level. I mean, I was at that meeting, a 3-hour marathon meeting.
Wow.
There was one homeowner there because a piece of his property, because the landfill runs under a piece of his property, and so he's involved with this. There was not one other person in the audience for this very consequential application. That's a problem. But that's what we're out there to fix.
Well, our listeners definitely appreciate what you do, Tina, bringing them the latest and greatest in the Rockland County Business Journal. If anybody out there right now wants any more information about Tina and the folks over at the Rockland County Business Journal, feel free to go to rcbizjournal.com. That's RCBIZ journal.com. Thank you so much, Tina. Also follow them on Facebook and Twitter and all the social medias. They also post all their stories up there. Very useful information. Tina, have yourself a great week, and we will talk to you next Monday.
Okay, have a great week, you guys.